I'm trying to do this. It didn't recognize my first click.
So when was COVID? Maybe just me and him.
Log in now, though.
Getting eating pizza. And the thing was,
These things are certain the pens we have. Look at this thing.
you have that, sure. Keep that.
Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 7 PM. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll call to order this meeting of the Town Council. The first item of business is announcements. Two announcements that I have. One is for Healthy Soils and Seas. It's a monthly meeting of the Sconnet Garden Club on March 1st at the Community Center, and it includes a presentation at 7:30 PM about food waste collection programs that foster composting and improve the health of our soil and ocean. So it's an opportunity to learn more about the idea of composting, which we certainly endorse in our community. The second announcement is that this week, February 5th to the 11th, is National Burn Awareness Week, an effort to try to make folks aware of the fact that there are still ways to get burned physically, even if one has all sorts of equipment that is safety related. So the information that the National Burn Awareness Week folks would like you to be aware of is located on the town website, and it offers you links to the subject. Are there any other announcements that need to be made? Thank you. Approval of the minutes of January 19th.
Motion to approve the minutes of January 19th, unless someone wants to make a comment or change.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is the department head reports. We have 7. The town clerk, the police chief, the fire chief, the finance director, the tax assessor who's with us, the town administrator is with us, and the building official, the building department.
I'll move to approve them all. If anybody wants to talk about one, though, leave that open.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded to approve and put on file the reports. Are there any comments?
I
or
just
questions?
have one question. I
Yeah.
see that the assessor here is Denise. Denise, I see in your report, it says 10 DEM water quality report webinar concerning impaired water bodies in Tiverton and Little Compton. I'm gonna figure that you're not lying about that. You did that webinar. What was that about? Can you just give a quick synopsis of it?
Sure. Typically, the fact that we did a study on in Quacket Pond and a few other ponds and estuaries and how they were affecting water quality, what kind of bacteria were in there, and how to prevent the runoffs, and it's all on their website, basically. It's all on UN's website. It was pretty informative. They didn't have as many really complicated as what they were going to have. They only had 2, which was, going in from non-Quacket Pond and down off of Colebrook. But
How often do they have those?
I don't know. I sent that information. I thought it would be helpful to look at that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any others? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is old business. The first is a draft resolution concerning offshore wind energy cable routing. If you recall at our last meeting, I was tasked to draft a resolution which expressed or attempted to endorse the position taken by the Rhode Island Saltwater Anglers Association. So I did that, attempting to make it from a little Compton perspective. Certainly am willing for there to be edits to that, but that's what you have in your package is the draft resolution that I'm proposing.
I'm happy to move that forward.
You want to move it, Patrick?
Yep.
Okay, I'll second.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the resolution as written. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks very much. Next is a request from Councilor Golembeski to pass a resolution seeking a moratorium on offshore testing for wind energy turbines.
Since I requested that, I found out it's mostly New Jersey, which New Jersey's coast ends up coming up and becoming all our coast. Another whale has died. And it's all coincided with the bottom scanning for the new wind turbines. It's turning into the same situation as solar projects and woodlands. The people for the woodlands and the wetlands want to protect the woodlands and wetlands. They don't want the solar people clearing it out. Well, it turns out the windmill companies are not quite that green. There's Shell Oil, Astra, and there's another big one in there that are making billions of dollars off of this. And there's one mayor in New Jersey he's attempting to, all he's asking for is the current administration in the White House, just put a moratorium on it just to see what's happening. You know, it may not have anything to do with it. The last whale, I believe it was struck, they think it was struck, but they don't know if it was disorientated because of what was going on with struck. So I'd like to work on a resolution. I'm not as proficient at this stuff as the council president is, but I'd like to work on a resolution and bring it back to the council for the next meeting to just request that Rhode Island just gives a heads up to fisheries and all that stuff. Say, hey, you know, look at this. What's the science going to lay out? Is it laying out that this is actually happening, or is it? They still haven't got the autopsy back from the 7 whales they've already taken and done the autopsy on. So they don't know if it's a toxin. They don't know if their sonar's messed up, but it's affecting whales of every age and gender. It's not just a particular size, an older or younger whale. It's all the whales. So I'd like permission to work on a
I'd be happy to work with you.
resolution on that.
So that would be your.
That would be my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. The next is to consider a revised draft terms of engagement for town solicitor. I've provided in your package my second draft. Andrew and I, as you recall, divided the responsibilities, or you may recall or not. And the portion that I have concerning compensation is subject to his input. He and I did not put this together. Therefore, he should have an opportunity to tell you his thoughts on compensation. But I've basically taken the responsibilities and tried to be more specific and definitive with respect to the things that they have been, that we have required the solicitor to be involved in. In the compensation area, I have included in item 1 under salary, an annual amount that, as you may recall, was a part of an IRS requirement that we consider the solicitor an employee to the extent that we require that person to attend specific meetings. So I included not only services requiring the presence of the solicitor at council meetings and labor negotiations. When a conversation before the meeting with the administrator, he suggested to me that that does not constitute the same periodicity. It's only a triannual thing. Therefore, it might not be appropriate to include that. And I concur with his suggestion to me. So I would strike the labor negotiations and move that down into the hourly rate section. All of that said, I approach this from the standpoint of the manner in which we currently compensate the solicitor, which is through basically 3 streams of funding. 1 is the salary, 2 is the monthly stipend, and 3 is an hourly rate paid. I'd like to defer to my fellow counselor, Iriarte Moore, and have him describe for us what he might suggest.
Yeah, so I'm open to that. When we first started going through this process, I thought that it might be better for the town to go to a purely hourly rate. But as I've spoken to other folks in other communities and looked at the budget as it is, I'm open to keeping it as a, as a stipend. That's drawn down each month. And then obviously there'll be extra legal work as time goes on. So I think keeping the same structure is okay. But I do think that, we're gonna, I've been doing a little bit of work going back through the legal bills and looking at, how many hours are put into the solicitor job. And, it obviously varies from month to month and even year to year, depending on what's going on in the town. But I do think that it depends on whoever we hire, what their hourly is going to be and how that's going to fit into whatever the stipend is.
Okay.
Because obviously the way that we get our billing now from the current solicitor, he lays out all the hours that he's worked and they still, bill whatever the hourly number is, depending on who does each hour of work. And it's kind of chipped away at the stipend. So, I think that we still need to negotiate what that hourly rate's going to be with whoever we hire. And I think that we have the upper hand here. We have a lot of folks that are interested in taking on this position. And I think it's up to us to say to them, we're willing to pay you this amount per hour at a, maximum. So I don't know what that number is. We had a bunch of applicants for this position. They gave us a lot of different numbers that they were willing to work on.
Okay.
We still have this in here, the litigation hourly rate. I think it's up to us to put a number in there.
Okay. Counselor McHugh and I had an opportunity to have a discussion as well. Before I get his input here, let me suggest that we consider, as we're talking this through, that we consider meeting in a workshop session, and it looks like the first opportunity we'll have to have all 5 of us will be the afternoon or evening of the next meeting, the 23rd.
I will not be here then.
And you'll not be here then. All right, then, I'll still recommend that we do that, and we'll decide whether or not we're ready to go to, and you obviously can participate in that discussion in advance, as to whether we move to do anything on the 23rd or not. But I would like to have.
We can still get your input.
Yeah.
You can still get your input.
Yeah. Counselor McHugh.
I think you guys did a good job. I have no problem. I know we're discussing whether you want to put a number for an hourly rate. Is that where we're at right now in this discussion?
We are. We can talk that through. We can leave that to the workshop. Your choice.
I'm happy to leave it to the workshop.
Yeah. I will pass out, just for your information, to have it as you think about this. This goes back to FY21. It's a lot of data on here. I went back through the legal bills and I laid out how many hours are devoted to each section of the legal billing here.
Yeah.
So you'll see there's the legal services, which is like the general legal services that we pay out of that fund. Legal contingency, the number of hours that are paid out of that line item each year. Legal consulting. And then just to give you an idea of like how much it could change depending on what the hourly rate is, at the end I gave you examples of what the bill could look like if if we're charging different rates, if we're charged different rates depending on who we've got. So
just
it's just informative to tell you what the scope of the job is, kind of what we're being charged at the moment, across the board. It's an average, and what it could look like if we were to demand different hourly rates.
Okay.
At the end of the day.
Is it accurate to say that in each case you've taken the bill for that section, the sum of all the bills for that section, the sum of all the hours for that section and then divided that to determine what effective rate was charged?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
You want this count?
Thank you.
Sorry,
That's all right.
put a barrier up.
So you can just use that for your consideration as you,
All right.
Make this,
think about
this part of the workshop.
If I could just interject quickly, I don't know.
Sure.
So Andrew will not be here the 23rd. Is there any thought to, Andrew, when are you back from?
well, I mean, I'll be back the next week.
So that could be 27 or 28. Is there a thought to having that workshop on the 27th or 28th with Andrew present?
I'm fine with that. If that works for others. So perhaps a vote that would come out of this would have,
I'm happy to move the terms of engagement.
Second.
May I ask who,
Oh, do we want to,
did you say second?
yes.
Do you want to amend something in it?
no, the motion is made and seconded
Yeah,
and to accept, would it be correct for me to say your motion is to accept this draft as the basis for our next discussion?
Yes, thank you.
And I'm grateful for that. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, as to the following week, is there any, the week following our next meeting, are there any constraints that anyone has in that week, which is,
27, 28, I think it's Monday and Tuesday, I'm free both days.
okay?
I can do any time in the afternoon or the evening of Monday, the 27th.
Okay.
There's a budget committee meeting on the 28th that I was planning on going to.
Yeah, you said, right? Yep.
So might we propose Monday, the 27th at some nominal afternoon, evening time?
Depending on what Gary says.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, once you've been in Florida for, a period of time, I figure you kind of owe us a little bit here after all. Gary, are you watching? Not sure that you know. But, yeah, should we set at least tentatively a time of your choice? Do we want to do it before?
4 p.m.?
4 p.m.? So 4 p.m. on Monday, the 27th would be the,
You'll have Heather, I won't be.
I'm just, I don't want to engage in a HIPAA violation here, but
I have surgery on the 27th.
town
so
clerk
I
will
won't
not
be
be.
around.
Yeah,
Do we,
yeah.
Because
do we then, all right, you want to take that vote first?
What are you about to say about?
Well, I'm just gonna say the glass slipper turns back to a work boot on the 28th, so what do we do for the 28th?
I guess should we put-
A special meeting to select a solicitor on the 28th?
I think, and I thought of that too, Gary, I think we could put in the agenda if we want to
On the 23rd,
extend the current or vote
right.
on the agenda.
Once this is set, I think we, on the 23rd, take another look and decide what we need to do with that,
Okay, all right, okay.
All right, then, there is a motion to meet 4 PM on Monday, the 27th, and a workshop targeted at reaching their conclusions on the solicitor selection.
Second.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you very much. The next item of business is a request from James Odell to continue discussion in the process of updating the control of and licensing of dogs ordinances, which was started prior to the pandemic. And related to that is the communication and response by the police chief requesting the council to petition the General Assembly to amend Rhode Island General Law 4-13-1, which would allow Little Compton to increase fines relating to violation of dog ordinances. My understanding from the police chief is that he not only feels that we need to change our own ordinances, but we also will need the authority to increase fines, which is not under our purview, but rather has to be decided by the legislature, giving us that specific authority, but that would be part of it. Those two are connected in the sense they both end up in our ordinance, but they are not necessarily connected that if one happens, the other can't, or there's some sequence to it. So that's where we are with it. I'm not familiar if anyone in the audience is here to speak to that issue. Sir?
Is it okay?
Yes.
Andy Ryan, 45.
Yes, Andy.
I've been bitten by a dog, harassed by unknown number of dogs. We have a major dog issue in that side of Little Compton. I've called the police numerous times. There's almost nothing done normally when, they came down and did a report for me, but the dog owner didn't have to do anything necessarily, we have people that are their third or fourth animal at large. I would urge you to set the standard that if you own a dog, it should be in your yard, right? And it should be licensed. And that if you're not a good dog owner, you should be able to have dogs, right? I mean, it's pretty evident that we have a massive problem if you read the newspaper in this town of the number of people that are bitten by dogs. There was a girl bitten on Amy Hart Path that showed up in the newspaper a few weeks ago. I don't know if that was somebody else's dog or their own dog, but I think you should look at a leash law like other towns have that requires someone to have their dog on a leash if they're not in their yard. And then dogs should have to be licensed in Little Compton. You should be able to own a dog unless it's licensed and provide proof of rabies vaccination. And then if you have a lot of offenses where you are clearly not a good dog owner, your ability to own a dog should go away for some time. I would also recommend that you require people to put invisible fences in if they have any type of violation at all, and that you require them to undergo training to become good dog owners, because it's never really the dog. It's rarely is it the dog. Normally it's the person owning the dog hasn't bothered to train their dog or be a responsible dog owner. But this is a huge problem. When I got bit, we were walking our 2 6-month-old twins at the time, and the dog came up and bit my wife and then bit me, right with our kids right there. When I sent an email out to the association, I got dozens of people who called me and emailed me to say they had to just stop walking because the dog problem is so bad. And that shouldn't be what Little Compton is. You shouldn't be afraid to walk around your neighborhood because dogs are harassing you all the time. And we get commonly harassed in our neighborhood and also on Highland. I had a dog charge us a few weeks ago on Highland Avenue. And it's just a constant problem.
Okay. Yes.
So, my name's Larry Anderson. I was on the council at the time that work on this was suspended. And I was reviewing the status of that at the time. At the time, in January of 1920, the same opponent, Odell's, came to us with their complaints. Mr. Ryan and others followed up. We asked the police chief to look at the ordinance. He came back to us on March 5th with a draft. It says, in the minutes say, a draft proposal, this is March 5th of 2020, as you say, the world changed shortly thereafter. A draft proposal to amend Chapter 4 relating to dogs was received from the police chief, town solicitor, and town administrator. The solicitor feels that the matter should undergo another review to simplify the wording. We took a vote to ask him to come back on the 19th with a simpler form of amendment. The world changed the next week. March 16th, we went into emergency, and that's 3 years ago. The issue has, as Mr. Ryan said, has not gone away. As I read the chief's amendment of our ordinance, I was reminded of two things. One is that portions of our ordinance are just archaic. Most of the cases brought are for dogs at large. That section of the ordinance does not even mention dogs. It mentions all other animals, mostly farm animals, then it says and other animals. it's just obsolete, it's archaic. And we have other provisions in the existing law that don't seem to be in use, impound or often in response to these threats. We don't seem to use the impounding dogs which are threatening and or menacing, which does have some teeth in it, excuse me, and we only occasionally use the other section about barking, biting, and howling dogs. So so I'd urge, when you look at the ordinance, to second what Mr. Ryan says, simplicity is not the aim, it's effectiveness, number one. The second is enforcement. And the other observation I would make, I'm living on a town road now for most of my time in Little Compton. I live on a private road, as many people do, as that neighborhood does. And my observation, especially since COVID, is that more and more people are walking on private roads, which may or may not be the roads they live on. And in my neighborhood, Cookson Pond Road, and people get off of the long highway and let their dogs off the leash and walk. Or come from my neighborhoods to walk because it's not their quieter road. So an issue is that many of these incidents seem to take place on the private roads where the police aren't usually patrolling until there's a complaint. So I would just urge that the goal not be simplicity, it be effectiveness, but I do think that the 3 years have passed and really needs to be addressed. Not a defined structure, especially you have some people who have more than 3 offenses, doesn't prevent anything, obviously. That's part of the issue, is having more, stiffer fines, but the terms of the ordinance and the enforcement of it are the important things. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments? To whom would you like to assign this work?
Are you looking for someone, sir?
Well, I'm suggesting that there would be someone that we would say would lead this effort. We obviously need citizen participation, because I don't think.
I will help write the ordinance, since I have, as Larry knows, walking by my house, I have an abundance of dogs, but my dogs stay in the yard or they travel me to work. My dogs don't bother anybody. My dogs are all vaccinated. I do have a pet peeve about registering dogs, and the clerk knows this, and I'm gonna bring it up just because it was opened up. Why in the hell do I have to pay $1 to spay feral cats when I register my dog?
Because it's a state law.
Because it's a state law. How many people register their cats? 0.
It's not a state law.
But like Larry talked about the laws. I'm sorry, Larry. You're a perfect target. You brought up the archaic laws. It talks about cows. It talks about horses. It talks about sheep. It doesn't mention cats, and it doesn't mention dogs. I rest my case. I'll work on an ordinance with you, boss.
Very good. Would there be then, that would
be my motion.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded that Golembeski and Mushin will head up a team which will do the work that has just been laid out to bring us into the 19th or perhaps the 20th century with this issue, with a goal of getting to the 21st century.
And just for the record, it's good dog owners get bad raps because of bad dog owners. That happens.
That's fair.
Do we want to put a time to return to the council on that motion? March, or end of March?
Yeah,
or-
let's do the second meeting in March.
Okay.
How's that?
Yep.
So that's an amendment to my motion.
Second that amendment.
Seconded. Any discussion then? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you for your persistence. It is at least that of the animals that are pursuing you, and we'll look to, on a serious note, to change that, because it is a benefit of this town that one is able to walk whenever the weather's tenable, and if the dogs are there that are interrupting that, it's not.
And if you are bitten by a dog, stray or not, there is a police requirement, and I believe it's state law, that you have to the police have to find the dog, have to verify its rabies. If it's not verifiable right away, but it has its rabies shots, it has to be put up,
Quarantined.
it has to be quarantined, and it has to go through all the testing, everything like that.
No, and they did that, but the problem is that, it's already happened.
Oh, no, I'm not making light of what happened. I'm just saying there is a procedure, that we just gotta make sure that procedure, and when we're doing the ordinance, is something we can bring into effect as a way to control.
And one more step from that procedure, which you're correct in saying, is that they're obligated, or should be obligated, to call their insurance company and say that they have a dog that bites, and that's gonna shoot their insurance, home insurance, almost double. So I'm not writing the ordinance, but, you may want to include in there that they need to notify their home insurance they have a dog that has bitten someone. And I can guarantee you, because I know someone's dog that bit someone that on their own called their insurance company. And I know their partner didn't want them to call the insurance company, but they did, and their insurance went up almost double. And that lasts for 3 years. So that's quite a deterrent when you get thrown into a pool of insurance where you can't get insurance, or you have a high amount.
Before you move on, are you going to take any action on the police chief's request to submit something to the General Assembly to change the fines? Or do you?
We will, as part of this effort, I think, in order to
You
fold
wait.
it in so that
Wait
it's
on it, okay, all
proper.
right.
Yeah, thank you. Good clarification. All right. Our next matter is to consider a proposal for clarifying the membership of the Agricultural Conservancy Trust and Conservation Commission. If you look at the document that is in your packet, this is an effort that was undertaken to solve a specific current problem, and that problem is that Bill Richmond has been a town council appointee to the Conservation Commission and has been reappointed periodically since 2004. And since 2015, he's also been considered the representative from the Ag Trust to the Conservation Commission by virtue of his chairmanship on the Ag Trust. So the fundamental problem is we have this potentially unstable condition in which a decision to change a member of the Conservation Commission could remove the leadership of the Ag Trust by that action. So we're trying to walk that back and undo that so that we're not in that condition. And therefore, the solution that we have proposed here is that Bill Richmond continue to serve as the rep from the Ag Trust to the Ag Trust from the Conservation Commission. And as chair of the Ag Trust, Mr. Richmond, and here the council defers obviously to the entity which has purview over this. The council, as chair of the Ag Trust, Mr. Richmond could and should, in the council's opinion, designate per code another member of the Agricultural Trust to represent the trust on the Conservation Commission, someone other than himself. Don McNaughton is currently an appointed member to the Ag Trust and could be that representative of the Conservation Commission if the chair so chooses. Then the Conservation Commission would have 4 appointed members, Richmond, Trockley, Haverland, and Babbitt, and an Agricultural Trust representative to be determined as defined by town code. It would also be true then that the Ag Trust has 5 appointed members plus reps from the Planning Board and Conservation Commission as required by code. We think the long-term solution is at the next opportunity, which would be 2024, the council could propose a charter change by referendum that says no longer would one of those 2 be a mandate. It is, I'll say it's my opinion, that we ought to not have the Ag Trust, not have the Conservation Commission appoint a representative to the Ag Trust. Did I get that right?
I think you said it backwards, but it doesn't really matter because that'll get
We'd-
hashed out.
We would remove one or the other of those so as to, we're already getting the cross-pollination that is desired by the one requirement, so get rid of the other requirement so that we don't end up with this kind of a situation developing again. That then is the proposal.
I appreciate the solution based on its thoroughness. On the first point, we don't have any say over whether or not, I believe we don't have any say over whether or not Mr. Richmond continues to serve as the representative from the Conservation Commission to the Ag Trust. I think it's up to the chairperson of the Conservation Commission to make that appointment. Or it's supposed to be the chairperson of the Conservation Commission, but I think that in practice, the chairperson has been appointing Mr. Richmond as that representative.
Well, the chairperson was Mr. Richmond
Yeah.
for a period of time, so that's how it began with the problem. And then it just stayed that way because the person who took over chairmanship thought, well, you're there already, we'll let you continue, and then it got confused. Yeah.
May I speak to this one?
Yes.
So, this is, I won't go into the complexity of the story, but my belief is that the problem with the issue arises from the amendment to the charter in 2014 that rewrote the language for the Conservation Commission, I believe, and created a clear contradiction in the charter. I believe, in the language that is set forth not by the town ordinance, but by state law, which we then reinforce in our section of the charter regarding the Agricultural Conservancy Trust, that says that the appointments to that the responsibilities of the trust are guided by the law, the state law. So these are murky legal questions that involve the state constitution about home rule, the state law, our charter, and our charter. These are legal questions. We don't have a lawyer to guide you here. You've just appointed this has been a time bomb ready to go off, and it's gone off by virtue of, and I frankly, it's on here. I've talked to him about this a number of times. This has not been a secret. So this solution is only an answer as long as the respective boards, the Conservation Commission and the Agricultural Conservancy Trust, choose to have those particular individuals as their chairs, which could change anytime.
Admittedly, and has.
Yeah, and Mr. McNaughton comes up for appointment in a few more months again, I believe, the term he's filling. So I think somehow this solution you want to address it before you visit a five-year appointment for him. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this, but the council in 2014, by forwarding that proposal, which reduced the size of the Conservation Commission from 5 to 7 members, then ceded the authority to appoint a member to the chair of the Conservation Commission, which is already represented by virtue of the law. Now you have an overrepresentation of the Conservation Commission, arguably an overrepresentation of the Agricultural Conservancy Trust on the Conservation Commission. You've appointed Mr. McNaughton to the Agricultural Conservancy Trust, regardless of his Conservation Commission status, at least for the remainder of his term. That language in the Conservation Commission was unnecessary. I understand how it got there, because they were mashing these other ordinances together and used language from the recreation, conservation to open space. They thought it was the right thing, put it in there, it was the wrong thing. It wasn't caught at the time, but this is feasible, but it doesn't, it's just a Band-Aid, as you suggest. And it should, frankly, it's an agreement between the two chairs of these boards. It's a gentleman's agreement, and that's sort of an odd way to fill positions.
Agreed. And we have the opportunity to undo it in about a year and a half.
I mean, technically, we could have a special election.
We could. All right.
You want a motion for a proposed solution, or?
I would prefer that we take a vote on what the proposal is and invoking the proposal as the best solution available to us at this point.
Before you do that, Bob, was the solicitor asked for his opinion on this issue? Was the solicitor asked for his opinion on?
I understand the question. I'm trying to,
I didn't know if you heard me.
yeah. No,
My guess, when the wordage was changed in 2014, that he must have been involved in that. That would be my guess. I mean, a solicitor would probably be involved in that, no? I don't know what your recollection is.
in the wording that was put to the people at the,
Right.
in the referendum, yes.
How that was crafted.
Yep.
So, I don't know if he would be someone to ask about his thoughts on this. Since he crafted it or was part of the crafting of what seems to be now the problem we're in.
I'm happy to ask him that question, but I wanted to have in place a decision of the council as to how we were proceeding, so as to have that
How
discussion.
about a motion that we go with a proposed solution with the caveat it's got to be reviewed by the solicitor first?
Subject to review by the solicitor prior to implementation.
Right.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll second your
That'll
motion.
be my motion.
I'll second
Motion's
it.
made and seconded that this proposal be adopted as the council's position, subject to review and input from the solicitor.
My only comment is that I'm uncomfortable telling each board who should be doing what. Like, I'm fine saying like the chair of the Agricultural Conservancy Trust should do this, but I'm uncomfortable telling them that this person should be the representative to this board, and this person should be the chairperson, and this person should appoint this person to the other board.
I don't think it was intended to be that way when it was typed out. I think our intent was to say that it could be, there's been a lot of discussion that they wanted it to be that person. So we were acknowledging that it could be that person, but it doesn't have to be. It needs to be any member.
Right.
Might I also note that if you do absolutely nothing other than don't fill the seat that you thought was open, then all of this is moot, because that's exactly what's happening right now.
Correct.
And the chairs on each side would take care of making sure that they designate the right person. The crutch of this is that we had a seat that we thought that was available for appointment, and it's not, because there was an error that happened in 2017.
So in other words, we don't have to do anything. I mean, you could just say, I think that this is within your power as a committee, you should be appointing someone to the other.
You probably don't even, yeah, you could suggest that they appoint somebody different than who has been at this point, but
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the missing link right now is the Ag Trust has not appointed someone to the Conservation Commission.
well, not appointed a different designee other than their chair. The chair has been serving as a Conservation Commission appointed member and the Ag Trust representative. That's part of the problem. So if we don't appoint,
So both teams are putting the player on both.
right,
Well, he's on both teams. From hey, you're going to go on the Ag Trust, and hey, you're going to go on the Conservation Trust.
but that's the way the code is written at the moment.
So is Mr. Richmond the council's appointment to the Conservation
No.
Commission, or is he the Ag Trust? Okay.
No, Mr. Richmond is a council-appointed person on the Conservation Commission.
Yes.
And he, as their chair when they decided he would be the representative on the Ag Trust. And that just stayed that way, even though somebody else took over chairmanship at one point in time. And then in 2015, when we implemented the 2014 change, he stayed in that position. And then when a term came due in 2017, we incorrectly appointed a 5th appointed member to the Conservation Commission.
When it should have been someone from the Ag Trust.
No, the Conservation Commission is where the problem came. Because the charter change said in 2014 that there shall be 4 appointed by the town council on the Conservation Commission and 1 person from the Ag Trust who is their chair or that person's designee. What happened was Mr. Richmond, who was a Conservation Commission appointee, he became both positions. So an extra person got added in 2017 that shouldn't have been. So if we don't reappoint that,
But isn't it would it be on the Ag Trust to make that appointment to the Conservation Commission?
their representative, yes, it's up to them. to
And
do it.
had they ever done that?
They did do that when Mr. Richmond was asked to be their chairman. They also said, we still want you to be the representative on the Conservation Commission from the Ag Trust.
But I thought he was the Conservation Commission member on the Ag Trust.
He is, that's where the confusion came in.
Yeah, but he can't be both at the same time.
Oh, yes, he can.
No, my point is, was there ever a vote taken by the Ag Trust to make him the designee from the Ag Trust to the
He was
Conservation?
the chairman.
the chair.
They didn't have to vote that, he was the chairman.
So I'm sure everyone's following this and you know what's going on. And it seems to me from listening to it, since 2017, the town council, of Little Compton, has been appointing 5 people to the Ag Trust when they should have been appointing 4.
Just 4, right.
And so that, I mean, we're human, right? I mean, everybody makes mistakes. I think I've made a few. So we're trying to change that. I know we have a hand up over here.
Yes.
I just want to say that there is another possible Band-Aid solution. So Don McNaughton's term is just filling an unexpired term. If your concern is to remove the chair, just serving at the whim effectively of the Conservation Commission, when Don's term expires, rather than reappoint Don to that position, you could appoint Bill to be a member of the Ag Trust, at which point he can resign from the Conservation Commission, and they can switch, and that would give him the security of not having to be the chair of the Ag Trust, then would not be dependent on the will of the Conservation Commission.
You, sir, have been reading this very meticulously and have detected its flaw. I congratulate you. That's right. That's what we could do, and that, frankly, if that were the response we got, I think that's another perfect answer. This is an effort to try to codify in one place. This is what we found, and I think your suggestion can be made part of this so that we, once again, come to the point of appointing either an Ag Trust or a Conservation Commission member. We stop, look back at this and say, are we doing this over again, or are we doing it right?
Yeah, I do think, I mean, clearly it needs to be addressed in the charter. I wish that Larry had brought it to the Charter Commission to shame on me for not catching it this most recent go around, but it wasn't brought to our attention by anyone on the Ag Trust, the Conservation Commission, the Town Council, and so we didn't do it, but it clearly needs to be addressed, and there clearly needs to be some sort of temporary solution in the meantime.
Thank you.
What are you doing?
Motion's made and seconded, so
I'm just holding off for a moment. All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. And thanks for the, seriously speaking, thanks for the help, because it's a interesting.
don't try and say it fast 3 times, though. Wow.
Next item of old business is a report from Mike Steers on the progress made regarding on-site wastewater management plan draft.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm happy to report from this assignment a few weeks ago. I guess Andrew started the thought of seeking the community septic system loan program, and committee was formed, and Don and I have sort of taken the lead on that. And so we met with Jonathan Zwarg of DEM, who's pretty much, town's worked with him before, he's the leader on the subject. He's been extremely helpful. So he first put us in contact with the environmental group that did Portsmouth, wrote a plan for Portsmouth and Smithfield. And the trick is that in order to qualify for the financial assistance, you have to have an approved management plan by DEM. So the trick is getting the approved management plan from DEM. And so Jonathan led us to a gentleman named Jim Reardon, who wrote the plan for Smithfield and is employed by Weston and Sampson Consultants. And so then it turns out that he's also been involved with Southeast New England program, which is an organization that currently has a grant proposal offering out that's due on March 11th for improvements in Rhode Island wastewater, decentralized wastewater treatment. So back to John and Jim Reardon, and turns out Jim Reardon is more than happy to work for Little Compton in pursuit of the grant. And there may be a few expenses, but very little. For the most part, he's willing to do it as a lead in to, should we get the grant, that their organization would be favored to write the program. So he's developing an outline for us, which I can deliver to Tony or whoever you would like, with the requirements to complete the grant that's due on March 11th. They say that they're going to award the grant sometime between now and June, and the grant is for 3 awards of $300,000 each. The thought, we went back to them and said, well, the management plan is projected to cost about $20,000. We don't want to put our opportunity at risk by just applying for the plan alone. And they suggested, no, if we are awarded the grant, we can spend the money over multiple years. And in fact, they can finance the implementation of the plan. So assuming we go forward with a plan, generally speaking, it's going to require a survey of the town, identification of locations, the writing of ordinances, setting up an infrastructure to track and enforce and implement the actual plan, which would be a couple of year process. So at the moment, back to the beginning, where Jim Reardon is preparing an outline for the response to the grant. I can deliver that to Tony or whomever. Town's going to have to sign it. I don't think that there's going to be any significant expenses. He's indicated he'd like to do it gratis, but I think there's going to be some administrative expense for filing and things of that nature. And then we'll wait for March 11th and see how we do. We may reach out for letters of support. That there was a suggestion that the fact that Little Compton is totally dependent on well water and private septic, unlike other towns, the significance of us having a plan and implementing a plan to preserve the water quality in town has a higher calling.
Yeah.
So if I could, I want to thank you for taking this on. And if you could just help me out a little bit here. So we could hire Reardon, is that his name, Jim Reardon?
Correct.
To do our on-site water management plan. We could hire him to do it.
Yes,
We don't have to go for a grant.
correct.
So you're going for this grant to cover the $20,000 of the estimate of the water management plan.
Well, yes and no. Initially, that was our total direction, but in having discussed this with Jonathan Zorg and looking at what it's going to take Portsmouth and Smithfield to implement their plans, it's a multi-year activity that requires ordinances and setting up an implementation infrastructure in the town. So there are going to be considerable future expenses. So it made sense to, let's go for the grant. It'll pay for the plan, and it'll also pay for implementation if we're fortunate enough to get it. If we don't get it, then we can default back to how much is it going to cost and getting a quote to have Jim Reardon write a plan.
So Portsmouth and Smithfield don't have a on-site water management plan yet.
They do. They both have them.
And it took them
And Jim wrote them. Well, Portsmouth, it took 3 years to write the plan. They're just in 1 year into implementing it. They've had a very serious septic situation in Portsmouth, but they have private water. The Newport water system provides all the water there.
In Smithfield, it took 2 years.
Smith,
I think actually Smithfield took
more than 2 years, but I think 5 years, actually. And they just got certification in 21.
So the residents there can now use this program in Smithfield.
They have their own program.
Right.
Yeah.
It can-
But the town has to implement that plan. And in the Smithfield case, it is less specific than Portsmouth. Has a very regimented inspection, tabulation requirements in executing it, because they've had a cease and desist in some of their
Island
towns.
Park down there. So this outline that you talked about is going to get down to what Little Compton needs to do.
The plan will do that.
So you're
Right now, I'm just trying to apply for a grant to write the plan to understand what Little Compton needs to do, and the town would have to, the council will sign off on the plan of implementation, whether it's too strict or too lenient or too much. So all those options are in the future. At the moment, we're just trying to get a plan. A proposal, maybe a better word.
Does Mr. Reardon have any info as to how much was there a big difference in implementing the plans in Portsmouth and Smithfield?
Yes.
On the cost basis?
Well, there's the specifics in Portsmouth and the actual requirements for the septics in, rather the Island Park in that area has tremendous problems. So I think they're going to end up with neighborhood sewage treatment plant kind of things where 3 or 4 houses are joined together. They have very serious problems, even with total town water. So
Portsmouth is kind of the more extreme case.
of the 2 towns, definitely, yes.
And probably more extreme in a lot of the other communities that have passed an on-site wastewater management plan. I'm looking at Richmond, which has a very toned down plan. I think even compared to Smithfield, it's.
I'm not sure it can get much more toned down than Smithfield, but the real issues really come back to the fact that we're totally dependent on our own water and septic. And we know that from the Little Compton watershed plan that DEM did, that we have infiltration into the Dundry Brook, and so that's been identified. We know we have algae in the salt ponds that hasn't been tested. So there's evidence that there's nitrogen leaching in areas that we should address. But all of that would be, investigation would be available if we're so fortunate to get the money.
Well, thank you for getting going on this so quickly.
We'll see what happens.
Thank you.
Well,
Do you need any action tonight by the council?
I don't think we need any actions tonight.
Very good. Thank you.
Make sure everybody sees the grant application and then
Right.
that outline, can you forward that to me also, or to the council?
the application.
No, the outline, didn't you say an outline?
Well, the outline of the grant application.
Right.
Whatever Reardon produces, I'll send it.
Yes, thank you.
Next item then is new business to receive and open the bid proposals for solar panel installation on municipal building and to accept a timeline that's been submitted by the administrator for the review process on this.
I have to apologize. I left the 3 proposals in my vault. I just realized it now. Can you set a time for tomorrow morning at 9
Sure.
o'clock that week, or 9:30, that we can meet in my office and open them publicly?
Would there be a motion
The
to,
table?
Motion,
Well,
No?
can you, my suggestion would be that you authorize Council President, myself, and the administrator to open them publicly. They're gonna need to be, I'm assuming, assigned for review. It has to come back to the council anyway, so the only thing that's missing is they were supposed to be opened publicly here, and the town hall is so locked up right now, it would be a hardship to get back there to get those, to get back to you.
okay. This, I'll call it formality step of opening the proposals needs to happen in front of witnesses, all that sort of thing, which we can accommodate tomorrow. And we don't lose any time. The only thing that we would be doing with it tonight is saying, if we follow the timeline of the administrator, go and do this timeline. So what he is suggesting is that we have a review committee consisting of the vice president, the fire chief, the school business manager, the director of public works, the building zoning official, the project chair, that's Jim Locke in our audience, and the town administrator. Those 8 people, 7 people, 7, those 7 individuals would be the reviewing team that would come back to the council with we have looked at each of these and have the following recommendations.
All right, then I would move that we task this proposed review committee to take the recommendations that are open tomorrow, or the bids that are open tomorrow, and come back to the council at a future date with a
Recommendation.
second.
The motion is made and seconded that the committee proposed be convened to review the 3 proposals and to return to the council for the recommendation. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Can we set a time in case there's anyone in the area or listening that wants
Oh,
to?
sorry.
What's
So
best for you?
your suggestion was
9 or 9:30? Wait, is it
either is fine with me.
9:30?
9:30.
Okay.
Then that group, or that opening of proposals by the 3 of us will occur at 9:30
In the clerk's office.
in the clerk's office, and Mr. Locke will be welcome to attend that.
Yes, and we have somebody here also from one of the bidders as well.
And one of the bidders,
Oh, I apologize.
sorry,
That's okay.
excuse me. Thanks for the
Sorry.
emphasis on
Right?
Please.
on
There's
that.
nothing you can do tonight with the 3 bids.
No, it would be just a referral, just open for informational purpose.
3 bids.
Right.
Yeah, we know we have 3. You would know.
And we know now, and we'll find out who they're from.
Right.
And that'll be it.
One of the purposes for opening it in public is for each bidder to know what the others have bid for their information, so that they're aware of where they stand and in the process. So it's why it needs to be public, and we'll make it so. Thank you. New business 2, receive a request from the town moderator for the council to appoint Suzanne Madden as the assistant moderator to the ensuing term.
So moved.
second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye, thank you. To consider a draft resolution in support of housing development and land use. Just a bit of understanding as to the origin of this. This is the League of Cities and Towns seeking to gather as many of the towns and cities they represent to consider a resolution which is a balance between a one-size-fits-all and the individuality of each respondent. So although housing has gotten a great deal media attention, specifically recently with respect to certain people who believe we should go this way or this way. The league's efforts are to try to get this legislation that is pending to be a clear expression of the statewide position. So I believe you will find that the language contained in here is both language that we can support, and it is language that it appears that others are also willing to support, and therefore would strengthen the position of the league as it seeks to say, across the state, different solutions will be done with housing, different needs exist with respect to housing, but in fact, here's what we think should be done with some urgency.
How soon do they want this passed?
They would, let's see. A date wasn't mentioned at the meeting this week, but there's a sense in which, as the legislative session is open, they have access to, they meaning the executive director, Ernie Almonte, and the legislative leader, Jordan. The two of them have already established the connections to within the legislature, and they'd like to be able to go as soon as possible to say that this represents the position of as many towns as we can. I'm certainly welcome to have our representative to the Housing Trust meet with the trust if you think it's important for them to review it.
Well, we just had our monthly meeting last night.
Oh, last night, okay. Okay.
But I understand the urgency in this. And it touches other issues. You know, it's not just housing that it touches as well, so, you know, I'm comfortable passing this.
You want to move it?
Yeah, I'll move it.
I'll second it.
The motion's made and seconded for the council to endorse the resolution of the town as described in the handout. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. The next item of business is a budget proposal from the town administrator, which you have in the form of this book. We are also producing a one-page summary, which will compare this proposal with last year's proposal so as to give you a quick scan down the line to be able to see what it is that has changed, big picture. And related to this, I have asked the administrator to develop a set of worded strokes that will support three things. One, the fact that we have in hand American Recovery Plan Act funds. Two, we expect to receive a couple of tranches of Infrastructure and Jobs Act funds. And three, we have a relationship that has been agreed upon between the Beach Commission and the Nature Conservancy with respect to a longstanding boundary issue or boundary uncertainty between the two parcels. So those three items, I would like the council to also endorse so as to allow us to place those in the warrant for the upcoming meeting. Just to be clear, the language, the first one is to authorize the council to expend the remaining sum, and we will provide that remaining sum of American Recovery Plan Act funds to accelerate accomplishments of the town's capital plans, including but not limited to construction of off-street parking area north of the basketball court and a public works building at the transfer station. Two, to authorize the town council to expend the expected sum of, we'll provide that figure, of Infrastructure Improvement and Jobs Act funds to improve broadband access within the town and to accelerate repair of town roads. And 3, to confirm the description of the boundary. Sorry, let me read a different version of that. I've had the group that put it together. I do have them, thank you. I put language in the packet that they have now had the opportunity to review. That is the 2 action people, the Nature Conservancy and the Beach Commission, as well as
Solicitor?
the solicitor and the clerk and myself. So the language that I would like for number C is the following: to authorize, per section 103 of the Home Rule Charter, the town council to spend up to $10,000 in administrative costs, to execute contracts and agreements that will clarify South Shore beach boundaries and maintain parking lot dimensions in favor of the town, while establishing access to beachfront property to the east for recreation and stewardship use. That statement is an effort to write a description that captures the sort of landmark nature of this agreement that has been many, many years in deliberation, et cetera, and gives the people the opportunity to say, yes, we agree with that. That's as it should be, so as to resolve that issue. Yes, sir.
You can listen as well. First of all, I think it's great that these are going on, both the financial ones as well as the beach one.
Larry.
It's right there, too.
This
This is the wording of the
beach.
worded stroke, yes.
So you'll recall that I came before the council and also the Beach Commission back in July, the time when you received draft agreements from the Beach Commission. There was more than one agreement. I attended Beach Commission meetings at that time. I pointed out that as of that time, the Beach Commission had pursued this with the Nature Conservancy without, in my understanding, any legal support from the town as of that time. In July, the expectation was that and the solicitor said that I haven't met with the Beach Commission.
Right.
I went to 4 Beach Commission meetings. He never showed up throughout the fall. So I guess that there's been some consideration since, but I kept trying to go to Beach Commission meetings, and for whatever reason, he didn't appear. I made the point to the council and to the Beach Commission that in addition to section 103, there's section 704 of the charter, which specifically deals with the town meeting's authority to, this is 704, this is the Beach Commission. Any acquisition of beach property by the town or sale or lease thereof, or any granting of an easement or right-of-way over any such property shall, exclusive of acquisitions by the Little Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust, as hereinafter set forth. We took it out of one thing, but not the other in the charter last time around, so that's another thing we didn't do consistently. Require consultation with the Beach Commission and approval by the town meeting. The 2 agreements, and I don't know if they're still the same agreements that are being addressed, one was the boundary line agreement and grant of easements, but there is also a Goosewing Beach Stewardship Vehicles Parking Lease, which is a 50-year lease. I believe that those, under the express terms of both of those charter provisions, that both of those agreements should be addressed at town meeting. They say, well, it's not really a lease. Well, it says it's a lease right on it. The other ones say they're easements on it. They are specifically, explicitly described by both of these issues. So number one, I think it's important to cite the other charter provision. And the other is, I also believe that this is somewhat general language. Perhaps it could cover the lease as well, but we should be, there is another agreement, which you received. It's a 50-year parking. It's part of the puzzle. The Nature Conservancy is ceding their claim to that area, but in exchange, they want that access. So they're linked agreements, but they're two separate agreements. They should both be.
Yes, I'm not able to speak for those two bodies. There's a member of the beach here, but I believe it is a concerted effort to have a single statement that they both can comport with. I was not aware, I had not noted section 704, so I'm.
It's 704, yeah.
Yeah.
It's section A.
Okay.
So, and then just to be a further, I will say, a further pain in the neck on this one. Back in October, when you were dealing with the Warren Solar project, which is again a good project, a question was raised whether the language, the leasehold easement that is part of that agreement under the terms of the charter, which section 03 does say such real estate transactions within or without the town required a town meeting vote as well. The town solicitor, in a letter before he'd seen it, said it is important to review the site control agreement to confirm that it does grant Little Compton some rights to the property. So that seems to be required. At a subsequent meeting, I believe he suggested it could be addressed if needed, but you might consider just to, not suspenders, just to consider seeking approval for that leasehold agreement with on the solar thing at town meeting.
So my recollection, thanks Larry, is I specifically asked the town solicitor if the the lease agreement with the parking spaces needed to go to the town financial meeting. And he said he would get back to me. He hasn't got back to me on that. I don't know what the solicitor's opinion of that is. And now that you mention it, it's certainly not in here. So I await that opinion still.
I'm not fluent in the details of that agreement that we made with, through Power Options, as I recall, not with Power Options, but they were the broker for that. Am I remember that correctly?
Was
The one with our purchasing solar credits.
Right.
In another town. And I recall there being a discussion in which it was pointed out that an explicit part of that agreement shielded legally us from the fact of owning something in Warren, Rhode Island, acquiring or in some fact, and I'm not conversant enough in the details of how that wording was employed, but it was something that had come up in other circumstances, and they had created a specific phraseology that made sure that the entity that's buying the solar credits was not in so doing buying property in that town. Now, I'll get you a more complete answer. I take your encouragement or your exhortation that we should consider whether or not that needs to appear before the people. But I think that, I believe that's why we changed our concern from being concerned that perhaps we might, and therefore we might have to do that, to the satisfaction of the necessity to appear before the town meeting was satisfied.
I can read the minutes from the meeting of October 20th. And it says, Councilman McHugh expressed his concern with section 103 of the Home Rule Charter requiring a financial town meeting property for real property transactions. It's not just a sale, it's a whole array of transactions, including leases. That's what the section 03 says. He was told, I think he was told, but he said both the credit purchase and leasehold agreement, which is what it's called, were reviewed by the councilors by the solicitor. He had given an opinion to the town administrator. Councilor McHugh expressed his concerns with Section 03 of the Home Rule Charter requiring a financial town meeting for real property transactions. He was told that the purchase is of energy financial credits, not real property. The agreement isn't a purchase, it's a lease, anyway. The solicitor stated that he does not believe Section 103 applies to this case, but if at some point it is determined to apply to this case, then the council could have the decision ratified at a future town meeting. He further noted that the leasehold is for purchasing product, not purchasing property. That's partly true, but the agreement itself and the correspondence I have seen from your vendor says that the town by law has to have an interest in the property. So it's again, it's a legal question, it's a somewhat technical one, I acknowledge. All I'm suggesting is that to be on the safe side, you put it to town meeting and you get it done, and doesn't become a question anymore.
Fair enough.
What I ask is the only other time you're gonna deal with warrant worded strokes and final dollar amounts going to be your meeting of the 23rd?
Yes.
When are you leaving?
The 20th.
Monday?
We got a special meeting on the 27th, you could add it to the agenda.
I won't be here, but you could. I just feel like you should have a full council. They're only seeing this for the first time this week.
I'm happy to make a motion to table this until the meeting of the 27th.
Well, if he needs direction on anything, to add anything more, then I would suggest you do that part now, but.
I'll second it.
Yeah, I don't think we need to do it now. I think we can do it together, do it at
On the
one time.
27th, okay.
Motion made and seconded to table this until our meeting of the 27th. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And thanks for that work, Larry, on that. It's helpful to get another pair of eyes. Next are two items for which the assessor has been patiently waiting. To consider approval of a contract renewal with Vision Government Solutions and consider approval of a contract renewal with CAI Technologies. This basically continues our software support service in assessment and our GIS services. Assessor, would you like to say anything with respect?
Government Solutions software is actually a tax administration software and a tax collection software. And the current software we have is no longer going to be supported as of June. So we really need to upgrade our software, and that's what that means. And the CAI is our new GIS, and just to continue what we have and update the information.
Thanks. Thank you for the clarification. Is there discussion on those two items? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to approve these two contract renewals. Is there any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next is the council sitting as the Board of License Commissioners is requested by the Community Center for 9 Class F one-day beverage licenses for various events through 2023.
Motion to approve with all the caveats.
Second. Discussion on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Communications items. First, a copy of an agenda posted by the Coastal Resources Management Council for a semi-monthly meeting of the full council on February 14th at 6 p.m. to discuss and act on federal consistence decision or a CRMC file number on Revolution Wind LLC, which is the Coastal Zone Management Act Consistency Certification.
Since been continued and potentially canceled.
Motion to place on file.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Request from the Buzzards Bay Coalition to receive permission for the Buzzards Bay Watershed Ride to start in Little Compton on October 1st, 2023.
Motion to approve with all the caveats.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
A request for support for the Little Compton Food Bank in the form of a budget funding to assist the food bank with expanded services to residents. Ladies, speaking of people that have been patient, do you wish to comment in this area?
I'm not involved with the food bank directly any longer.
All right.
Do they have a budgeted amount, or?
50, is it
They're asking for
5,200?
52.
The level of support that they're asking for is $5,600.
56, I'm happy to make that motion.
The letter says 5,200.
I see 52, but I'll do 56.
$5,200.
52. I'll amend my motion to 5,200.
Second.
Discussion.
This is to place it in the budget folder?
Yeah.
That's what this is going to?
No, we don't have, we've opened the budget folder. We're putting the budget folder into the budget. This would be an endorsement of something going into the budget, and we have no sense of, yes. Pardon?
I'm sorry, that's the first time that they've requested, they made that request.
Right.
It's not, has not been part of the budget. So
Right.
we would need to add that as a town grant.
All right, so we're just approving this as is right now, then?
To be considered for the budget? Is that what you're talking about?
Right.
All right.
That's what they're talking about. This is coming, quite frankly, very late in the process to be able to be considered to include in the budget. What we'll have to do is look at the other decisions that we're making with respect to,
I've got nothing against
Grants.
approving it, I just want to know where it's coming from, and how we're, it's going to be a contingency item, or is this?
no, we have a list of civic grants that we make to the wellness center, to the stay-at-home.
Right, we've got
to-
those stay open till we get a request from them.
Right, this is that request.
Okay.
My problem in being more specific about it is we don't have a sense yet of who else is waiting to put something else into the process. I didn't expect this to come. I didn't expect it.
Okay, well, since I'm mentioned in this letter, I'll give you background
Okay.
on why this is appearing now. I had visited the food bank to meet with Sue Chase, look at the facility. They just got a bunch of new refrigerators, which are great. They've continued expanding their service to the community. I think that's outlined in here. But they're kind of seeing record numbers there, and they're looking to have a little more support from the town in serving their patrons that frequent the food bank. And I said, well, if you're looking for money from the town, you have to do this soon, because this is when the budgeting process goes on.
Okay.
So they decided to do it. And,
Okay. Do
so
you
we're
know
here
if
now.
they receive support from the Rhode Island Food Bank? Are they?
They do, yes. Yep.
Okay. So,
Receive assistance from the Rhode Island.
I don't know what the funding is, but I know that they receive food.
Right, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
So,
And they, because of the addition of the new refrigeration units that they just got, I mean, if you haven't been there recently,
yeah,
I suggest you go in, because it looks like a supermarket at this point, which is great. And they're able to provide much more fresh food to people now that they have these refrigerators down there. So I think they're looking to expand their offering to provide fresh fruits and vegetables to people, and they need funding to do that, because the food bank doesn't have that sort of offering. The food bank delivers a lot more
canned and
canned
boxed
and they do deliver some fresh produce as well, but it's not enough to meet the needs of the community and who they're serving. So I think they're looking to expand that.
Well, I would suggest that we consider putting it in the budget so that we can have it in place. And if in the process of review, we find that we don't have the whole story, or there's some issue that arises, then that can be part of the decision of what gets
Okay.
changed. I mean, it seems like a very worthy request. It's just, its timing is what's giving me some pause, is that we have requests from other entities for this kind of support, and trying to measure who gets what.
I seconded the motion to put this in there, so.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to place this in the budget for 2024?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is an email stream between Leslie Fox and the Rhode Island Department of Transportation Customer Service concerning the upcoming repaving project for the Commons.
Unless someone wants to comment on it or place on file.
I do want to comment on it. I think this is very interesting. I think everybody should. I'll just read it quickly. This is from the RIDOT. I don't know what the gentleman's name is. The pavement improvements, the project involves various pavement improvements. We're talking about the Commons here, the Pikes Peak over there. The project is an accelerated schedule with the purpose of rehabilitating and restructuring approximately 11 miles of roadway while maintaining the existing roadway alignment and footprint. Drainage improvements are limited to the cleaning of existing catch basins, and reconstruction is needed within the project's limits. New drainage systems are not included as part of the pavement project. Stated above response, the scope, schedule, and budget of the project are based on addressing the pavement deficiencies of 11 miles of roadway. Land survey has not been performed in this area under the subject project, which is required in order to identify property lines, system grading, utility poles, trees, fences, stone walls. The introduction of new sidewalks along this section of road would not only change the scope of work, but it would also potentially impact the schedule and cost due to possibly property impacts. Talking about putting a sidewalk where A1 Pizza is going on that side on the south. Also, it says the south side of the common street will receive new granite curbing, which is included in this project to improve the condition of the roadway edge while being consistent with the north side of the road and surrounding area. So we're going to be getting granite curbing. As previously stated, granite curbing will be utilized to be consistent with the surrounding area while adhering to the project scope and budget through section 106. The project is not anticipated to have an adverse effect on the historic district. So I'll ask the administrator, I meant to talk to you about this before today, but things got busy. Where are we with this on a timeline?
Okay, first of all, the person responding to this was not an engineer, was actually a PR person for the department, Heather Gately.
Right.
Information and Public Relations Specialist. So she obviously just gathered some information from the engineering department to respond. However, they plan to be with us to give us an update, either the first, most likely the second meeting in March. They will have an update of the engineering, much more concrete response.
Can we state that it's going to be granite curbing that's going on there? Is she correct in saying that or not?
That's not from an engineer. I mean, she obviously, this young lady, gathered the information, just replied to.
So do we know if it's granite curbing? We don't.
We'll find out. My understanding, it will be, yes.
Will be granite curbing. So when they come and give us a presentation, I'd like to see, a presentation where we can see, what it's going to look like over there. And also, there's going to be a sidewalk from the town hall down to the school. And I didn't read that. As stated in the previous response, schedule and budget is based on addressing the pavement deficiencies. Land survey, it would historic properties, archaeology, cemeteries, relocation, and tree removal The town is funding a new sidewalk in the Commons Triangle between the school and town hall as part of the project. Can you just speak on that?
That's the agreement that we signed with them and that I put before the council.
That 70,000, was that the number?
It was 75,000 was our share.
Yep. And where
Yes.
does that stand?
That's part of it. They will report on that as well.
Are we anticipating, when we had, because the school is going to be impacted by this, with buses and,
It's not going to be done right now this year. This is not going to take place because they got to complete the entire engineering. So by the time they get through, it's not going to be until most like the spring or summer of 2024, correct. And we are being very considerate. They are very cognizant that there's a school, summer, traffic and all of that. So they are very much aware of that.
okay, so I look forward to that meeting in March. Next.
My motion wasn't seconded. so
Second.
it was- Place on
The
file.
motion then has been made and seconded to place this item on file. Any discussion in addition to what's happened? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. A copy of a resolution adopted by the Tiverton Town Council seeking General Assembly authority to license short-term rentals by municipalities. I would suggest to you that we have put a pause on our short-term rental initiative, and I would suggest that this matter return to the agenda, if at all, after the budget submittal.
Motion to put this on hold until after the budget submittal.
Second.
Just a quick discussion. When you say the STR policy is put on pause, what does that mean to you?
From the degree of response that we received from the public in the public hearing that was conducted, I believe this matter will require the attention of a number of people to come forward with a comprehensive proposal. It's certainly not a one-size-fits-all, which we were.
I'm looking at you on the TV. I'm looking at you on the TV, so we don't have to bend our neck. I can see it right there.
I can see clearly now.
There you go. My recollection was we were sending it to the planning board, or am I making that up? I thought we voted to do that. It's my recollection.
I don't recall.
I have to look at the minutes.
I have to look it up.
November.
Yeah. I'll suffice it to say, I believe this should be placed on file because I don't believe that we are ready to support a resolution of this nature concerning short-term rentals.
I agree.
All right, motion to place on file then.
Second.
Andrew has.
Yes.
I recommended in one of those public hearings that you put a moratorium on new short-term rentals so that you could take the time and develop a well-thought-out plan that actually works. And I would recommend you do that again because neighborhoods like mine aren't set up to have short-term rentals in them. And every time there's a house sale, there's a likelihood that we're going to get another one. And so if you simply just voted to put a moratorium on it, it allows people to have them who have them now, and then you can take your time and get it right while you're not harming us.
Are you suggesting that a moratorium would be a future moratorium?
Yes,
Says,
new ones, yeah. So no new short-term, until you get an ordinance that that squares everything away. If you put a moratorium on future short-term rentals, it allows you to take your time and it doesn't change them. It also allows people who have them now to continue to have them, whether they're, right, and it doesn't harm them. And so because with interest rates being as high as they are, right, if we we're going to have houses turn over in my neighborhood this next year because of people, are moving out or, right, and every time a house sells, we hold our breaths, and as soon as it closes, I ask the real estate agent, is this another short-term rental that we have to deal with? Right, so, I would just ask you to think about putting a moratorium on future rentals until because you do need to take time. I think you're exactly right. I think this is complicated, right? It's very complicated. It affects people in different ways. And I would appreciate if you would just think about our neighborhood and other neighborhoods like ours, that we have to take care of our roads. You know, we're a private development, but we have no control over these things because the way subdivisions of this town are set up, they don't give us control over these things. So it's not like we have an option to do something ourselves.
Very well said.
I think we should consider that at a future meeting, but I do think that we need advice on the legality of it.
Yeah, I don't know if we can just arbitrarily put a moratorium on something like that.
Besides the fact you haven't identified which ones are already existing.
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion then to seek legal opinion from a qualified source as to acceptable uses of moratoria, and to return with a proposal for how we might invoke that.
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
And what about the resolution that's actually before you?
You already have a motion on the table, right?
I had,
Just recently.
well, but I didn't get a second, so
Motion to place it on file.
Second.
The motion is made and seconded to place the town of Tiverton's resolution.
On file. Yeah, we did that already. We didn't take the vote on it.
there was no second. I didn't have a second, so, and then you got right into this conversation,
All
so.
right, it's fine, as long as it gets done.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
The next item is a request from the Little Compton Republican Town Committee to use Veterans Field on June 11th with a rain date of June 25th for the annual antique car show.
Motion to approve with all the caveats, making sure there's no conflicts.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
And a resignation received from Bob Rotman resigning from the Little Compton Housing Trust effective immediately.
Motion to accept it with regret.
Second.
Any discussion? Do we need to append to that we'll advertise for?
I will post it for the next 2 weeks, yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. The consent file.
Motion to place consent file on file.
Second, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
The payment of bills.
Motion to pay the bills.
Second, discussion on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. There being no further business before the council, I declare the meeting adjourned.
How do I get tickets to games?
The what?